The following program is rated TV MAL. It contains strong language and is intended only for mature audiences.
TBS, America's #1 independent television network, presents the following sports exclusive.
You're listening to Basically a Sports Show.
Follow us on Twitter at Basically Sports.
Subscribe to our podcast on iTunes.
And check out every episode of the show at basicallysports.tumblr.com.
Now here's your hosts, Zach,
Greg, Mike.
And this is Andy, and you're listening to Basically a Sports Show.
All righty. Are we all here?
Indeed.
All right.
So Greg is back after what was kind of an awkward week where I think we all three just we're waiting for all right, let's let Greg chime in. And then it's like,
real quick. My brother came up from Key West last week and we were out on the motorcycles and he wanted to go to this place down by Columbus somewhere to get a bologna sandwich, fried bologna sandwich of all things.
Okay.
So we got down there and plenty of time. It's only like an hour and a half from my house. So we ride down there, we're eating, and then we start to come back. I'm like, hey, I know this really cool way to go back. And I took us down this road, and the next thing I know, I'm like, we're like 2.5 hours from home at this point. So that's when I texted you guys and said, I don't think I'm going to get there in time. I finally rolled into the house about 10 after 8, and I thought at that point I'm not even going to bother because I'd missed 90% of the show at that point. But that's what happened to me. So I was out riding the great back roads of Ohio and just lost track of time and got us in a spot where we couldn't get back in time.
For a fried bologna sandwich.
For a fried bologna sandwich, which I don't even eat bologna sandwiches. I mean, I'll eat like a regular one, but it was this bologna that was like as thick as a hamburger, and that just grosses me out. So
weird.
Yeah, but you know what? I posted just that the name of the town is Waldo, Ohio, and I made a joke on Facebook. We found Waldo, and everybody's like, hey, did you get the bologna sandwich at the GNR Tavern? I was like, this place is like, I'm not kidding you. The whole town is like 2 bars, a gas station, and a couple of really old boarded up buildings. And that's it. I don't know how everybody knows about this place, but everyone, to a man, woman, whatever, was, hey, you got to get the bologna sandwich while you're there. I thought, okay. So I guess it's pretty famous. I had never heard of it before we went.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I'm back and I listened to the show partially last week. I didn't listen to all of it, but I'm a little bummed I missed Overreaction Monday, but what are you going to do?
Well, we have, would this be Overreaction Monday? Is it always Overreaction Monday?
Well, week 2 is Overcorrection Monday.
Right.
Well, really, it's Over-Injured Monday.
Oh, my.
Yeah.
So I've got a list here of just the notable injuries so far. And I checked probably an hour ago for any updates. Let's see. We have Brandon Sheriff, the starting guard, Pro Bowl guard for the Washington football teams. He's out 3 to 5 weeks. Colts lost Malik Hooker, torn ACL. He's out for the year. Seahawks, Bruce Irvin, torn ACL, out for the year. Broncos lost Cortland Sutton. He's out for the rest of the year, torn ACL. Drew Lock, shoulder, 3 to 5 weeks. The Vikings put linebacker Anthony Barr on IR with a torn pec. He's done. Christian McCaffrey is going to miss 4 to 6 weeks with a high ankle sprain. Saquon Barkley's torn ACL. He's out for the year. And the 49ers lost Nick Bosa. He's also got a torn ACL, out for the year. Solomon Thomas probably has an ACL injury, but they couldn't get any information about it released today because the mobile MRI unit broke down on its way to the fucking hotel. Jimmy Garoppolo is going to miss at least a month with an ankle injury, and Raheem Mostert is week to week with an MCL strain. But there's more, but they're not as notable or not as long. But Jesus,
yeah. And the Niners were already without George Kittle,
Yep.
and they were already without Richard Sherman. So the Niners, despite being 2-0, despite the whole NFC West being 2-0, they probably dropped to the bottom of that grouping. But
and they wiped their ass with the Jets.
Yeah. Well, I think that just tells you just how bad the Jets are.
Yeah, the Niners. Who's their backup quarterback? Is it still that
Nick
that
Mullins?
Kid? Okay, yeah, I was wondering because he was. Remember when he was the thing for like a week, a couple seasons ago?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been. They were talking. Who was I listening to? Somebody. I was reading an article, I think, where people are trying to blame the lack of a preseason for this.
Yeah.
Which I mean, I don't know. Is there anything to that? I thought about it. I'm like, what difference could it possibly make?
Getting just, I guess, getting players in condition, after an off season, because you go from playing no football to playing competitive football right off the bat. I could see how that could cause some injuries, and how even going half speed and for a quarter in preseason just could help you get back into shape.
That's a good point.
I don't even think it's preseason games. I think the big thing when it comes to that is not only do we have no preseason games, but these guys were limited in terms of how early they could start full padded practices, and even when they're in practice, like how much they can actually interact with each other. I assume it's pretty full go right now, but it wasn't for several weeks, and so they're not only are they behind on 4 weeks of preseason games, they're behind on at least 2 or 3 weeks of full practice, where you build up your endurance in practice a bit, but playing game speed is, especially in football, is just way different than what practice speed could ever give you.
Yeah,
so
and I think that preseason, especially for to just further Zach's point, that gives you a series of to where you have. I mean, it's boring. It's an exhibition, but the most important thing is that you are giving guys exposure to game speed without there having to be necessarily any consequences for guys that are obviously going to make the roster. They get a chance to sort of let their bodies adapt and sort of their senses adapt to the speed. And that's, if you ask any former NFL player, whether they're, a veteran or just somebody who burned out, the first thing they say is, if you ask them what the big difference is from college and NFL, they'll say the speed is insanely different. So I mean, it's clearly very hard to get their bodies up to snuff for this, but I think this really will put sort of an interesting conversation into interesting twist on the conversation of how we treat the preseason going forward. Because I thought this year would be a great opportunity, experiment to show that we don't need any preseason, but clearly that's not the case.
It turns out no.
Turns out we're wrong.
Well, because if you remember, the big argument for years was we don't need the preseason, we don't need all these games, and now maybe we do. I don't know. I mean, I was legitimately asking. I don't know if there's a difference or not. Apparently,
I could very easily see that it would be just. I don't know. It's just. Granted, I'm not a pro athlete, but just from my own experiences playing sports, going from 0 to full speed can be can be difficult, and sometimes just a bit of a. I mean, we see it in college football all the time too, like tune-up games, right? Now technically those aren't preseason games because they quote unquote count. But
they are preseason games.
But they practically are, for all intents and purposes.
The cupcake portion of the schedule where you give smaller colleges some money by letting them show up and get their
When Alabama is playing the Fighting Eyeballs of the Chicago Optical Institute, that's a preseason game. I don't care what you want to call it.
But you see, that serves the same purpose, right? Because they fight they play the Fighting Eyeballs, and that tunes them up for Auburn. So
right.
On the other hand, though, I think one team that's an argument against that is my team, the Rams, because the last 2 years now, I maybe even was a full 3 years ago, but Sean McVay doesn't play the starters in the preseason, never did, and they've looked just as good as anybody else. Let me
just play this devil's advocate card on that one. How has Todd Gurley's injury status held up?
Well, I think that's an issue with Todd Gurley.
I know. I'm just
my argument. What I would think is that the ACLs, that's just part of the game, and that can happen any week. It's just wrong step.
Well,
somebody hits it the wrong way. But I could see a lot of pulled muscles and that sort of thing because of no preseason. But the ACLs, you just don't know for sure.
If you look at the Saquon Barkley one, he just flat out fell on his leg wrong. That's just dumb luck.
Yeah.
Saquon Barkley basically he came back into the game too quickly, tried to do too much on a carry, and tore his ACL before he even hit the ground. It was weird. It's a weird play.
Yeah, those
But-
ACL tears with no contact are always the weirdest ones to explain.
It's so weird how fans are becoming these virtual doctors to where we're so like we just know what to look for now because it's a non-contact injury, probably an ACL, like more than anything. Or if you see, I can pretty much spot a dislocated shoulder and a torn pec, and
Yep.
it's just because we're just used to seeing it. But the ACL, like there's a really creepy video. Did any of you guys watch the? It was Amazon Prime's version of Hard Knocks where they followed the Arizona Cardinals for a season. It was like
nothing.
yeah,
right?
so that was
Yeah.
actually really fascinating. They actually had Carson Palmer was mic'd up when he got tackled and tore his ACL, and he hits the ground like it's microseconds after the play is over. He's on the ground. Lord, please don't let it be my ACL. Please don't let it be my ACL. But it was his ACL.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
It's
No,
just,
these
it's just
guys
bizarre.
know. Especially somebody like Palmer who's already done it once.
Right.
Like once it happens, you're like, damn it, yep, that's it. And even and like you said, Andy, even us as fans, like we've seen enough of these that a guy falls down, and you're like, yep, yeah, that's.
Well,
that's
even
probably
when a
an ACL.
guy just goes down and starts limping, you immediately go, "Oh my god!" If it's an important player, not that they're all players aren't important, I guess, but like if it's a star player, the first thing you think is, please don't let it be an ACL. You know, and
Yeah.
then either it is or it isn't. But yeah, that's the first thing you think of. And but yeah, a lot of injuries. I don't know. We should probably look it up and see if it was like this last year. I don't remember it being like so many.
No,
I know.
I think it just, in a lot of ways, it's just terrible luck. And the team that I actually do kind of feel for is the 49ers, because not only did they have all those guys go out, you know, against the Jets, and there was some, I guess on the broadcast, I didn't hear it myself, but supposedly on the broadcast, the announcers had talked to the 49ers, and they had some sort of concern about the turf at Giant Stadium.
Yeah.
We're in MetLife. But the fun thing for them is because of COVID protocols, there's no staying back on the East Coast. You have to fly back and forth no matter what. So they've just played the Jets in MetLife. They have to fly back to San Francisco, practice there all week, and then fly back to MetLife Stadium to
Oh
play the
my.
Giants this upcoming Sunday.
How does that even happen in the schedule making process? I guess back before all this, you could just go, okay, stay here for the week, no big deal.
Yeah.
But it still seems weird to me that you would have them play in New York 2 weeks in a row.
Sorry, I'm reading this. It's a Fox News article about the 49ers MetLife Stadium trash turf. And the top comment is from an NFL fan. Tripped over the kneel marks left by the felons.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
This is what I get for reading the comments.
That's
Yeah.
about perfect for Fox News. Just
Yep.
gonna.
Well, first
And-
off, it's field turf, so there's no dents in the field from kneeling. So I just want to point that out.
It's just totally stupid. Anyway, but Greg, so
Fighting commentary from
we-
the Fox News readership.
we didn't really get your take on because we kind of all discussed how bizarre it was in some cases having fake or virtual fans for at least one game last week, and there's obviously live real fans in Dallas and Jacksonville,
Yeah.
the other places,
Cleveland,
and Kansas City.
believe it or not, in Cleveland.
Kansas City, yeah.
So what did you think about what was your NFL experience like with no fans? Did you?
I thought
think-
that as far as the televised portion of it went, it was easiest because it's probably the one sport where you don't really see the crowd that much because of the way the camera work is.
Mhm.
So that it wasn't as freaky as like watching a baseball game, which to me, the two weirdest ones I've seen so far are baseball and when NASCAR wasn't having fans. That was just weird.
Baseball
the
is so
NBA and the
weird.
NHL,
Baseball's
yeah.
so weird because you're just so used to seeing like that full crowd behind home plate.
Right.
And then
Yeah.
like Greg, like you're saying, in football, very rarely do you see the crowd unless it's like this,
Reaction shots.
or
Yeah.
a reaction shot. In
Yeah.
baseball, every time the ball gets hit, foul ball, in the air, pop fly, whatever, you see people. But yeah,
But I thought everybody was pretty solid with it. I thought some teams, or I guess networks in this case, did a better job with the fake crowd noise than others did.
So it was really it's really weird because my first experience with watching a full game with fake crowd noise was actually this week's Bucks Panthers game. Ray J pumped in fake crowd noise, and it
it wasn't
is
just
like
Brett Favre there yelling and screaming.
no, but they had but what was really what's really disconcerting is like, in football you really don't see the fans, which is kind of what made it weird, because it's like you really don't see the fans. You're watching the game, you hear the crowd noise, and you just kind of fall into that habit of watching football.
Yeah.
And then there's a shot where you do see the empty stands, and it kind of just throws you through a loop for a moment. And but I mean, I don't know. Honestly, for my money, the best way to handle this so far has been the NBA with their NBA Jam crowds. Like that's just just perfect. Like it doesn't need to be anything more than that.
I think the NBA and the NHL both did a great job of compensating for not having any fans. Baseball, the cardboard cutouts, it was funny for 2 minutes, and then it's just back to being weird again. And NASCAR, I haven't been following it, but as far as I can tell, they're letting decent sized crowds into the tracks again. I have not seen that it's been a disaster so far, so I guess that's good news. But as far as like outside of the NBA and the NHL, I think that the NFL has done by far the best job with it. As far, out of those two did a great job, but it's not nearly as weird as I thought it would be with the NFL, which is good. But like I said, it's because of the way it's televised. You don't really see the crowd.
Speaking of NFL televised stuff, I just wanted to touch upon this, completely unrelated to anything, but it was kind of an anecdote that I heard over the past week, and I just want to get it out while it still kind of fits naturally in the conversation. So I was talking to someone who lives over in Europe, right? And so like they mentioned, oh no, in France we get the NFL, but like they only broadcast one game a week, and how they present it is this: like it's usually hours after the game's over, and they air the game, but only like the parts where there's actually gameplay. Like they cut out literally all of like the in-between play stuff.
Yes, so it's like a condensed game.
Yeah,
so like a 5 minute video or what?
No, my grandfather's been watching because we normally used to have Sunday Ticket, and he just found it to be too expensive. And I guess I think it's through our cell phone package with Verizon, we have NFL Game Pass, and that you can watch condensed 45-minute versions of these games. And like I watched a bit of it. Like yes, it cuts out all the in between, but it does leave some replays in to make it like at least worth the time to sit down and watch. You get the context, but it goes just snap, play, reaction, snap, play, reaction. It cuts out all the fat, which is nice.
Yeah, and that has nothing to do with the lack of fans. I just wanted to mention it because I found it very interesting. But
these Americans with their football, it takes too long. We will watch the condensed version, and we will smoke cigarettes and make fun of Americans. Anyway,
on the topic of crowd noise, Greg, if you want to, I got to share. I'm going to try and throw up here.
Okay.
So the our friends in Philadelphia.
This is so good.
This is so weird. So they're playing in Philadelphia. It's a home game. Technically, there's no fans there, and yet whoever's running the sound actually decided to have a little joke here. If I can, I've probably got it muted here. Let me unmute this tab. There we go. All right.
In this game, Wentz off play action, looking for the end zone, and it's intercepted. Darius Williams with a diving.
That's what I mean. It's just hilarious. Like,
well, like they were, because obviously that was the Rams game, so I was watching it, and it was normal. Like there was cheers for the first bit of it, and then at one point I think the Rams were up 21-9, I think, and that was the first time I heard the boos. And it was like, wait, did they seriously just do that?
Yeah.
And sure enough,
they did it a few times.
They have a 3-and-out, and they have the interception, and they're piping in the boos for the.
Well, if you're going to make it realistic, you have to kind of go both ways.
But if you're an Eagles player, you're like, what the hell are you guys doing?
That's
like,
a good point too. Well, yeah, that's a good point. But
I mean, if they really wanted to simulate the Philly fan experience, they'd have one guy in the stands just flinging batteries at Carson Wentz after the interception.
No, you take a helicopter, fly it over, and just kind of drop him out. Kind of fly around the stadium and just kind of, or a guy throwing them out from different angles.
Do you guys happen to know any Falcons fans also?
Just one.
I was gonna kind of use that game as a way to get over there because when we're talking about fans in the stands, the Cowboys had the most fans so far at a game this year, 21,000.
Which, by my bad math, is about 25% capacity of that place, I think.
Right. I think it's a close to 100,000 seat building. So it was certainly more than we had seen elsewhere, and that was off-putting in itself. But because of the way the stands are laid out, like they're not these huge concourses and all that. It's very small, like rings of seats that have all the middle stuff in between it. It felt like there was a lot more there. Just looking at it, it was like, I didn't know what the number was. I actually thought it would be more than what the number was reported because just visually it looked uncomfortable to me.
You know what? Though the Browns on Thursday night had 6,000 fans at the game.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, you can space them out easily in a stadium. It's whole 73,000, no problem. They didn't. I mean, you would see shots in the end zone. There'd be 35 people sitting together. And I was talking to my brother. He goes, maybe those are season ticket holders and family members only. I said, there is no family that has 35 members in Cleveland that all have season tickets to the Browns game. I'm sorry.
Well,
what it looked like they had done is they had put the entire, just the middle section of the stadium was open. But, you think about it, if you spread them out all over the place, I guess with concessions and stuff. But you know what? If you want to sit up in the upper end zone, go for it. But you got to walk all the way down. That would be the way I would handle that. Yeah. So I don't know what the hell they were thinking. But yeah, I mean, 6,000 at Brown Stadium is not very many, but it looked like a hell of a lot more than that because of the way they had them seated. Which is weird.
And the same thing happened on Saturday. I was watching for a minute the Oklahoma State game, and they just had groups of kids in the student section all grouped up together. It seemed like everybody that I saw was wearing a mask, at least in the Oklahoma State game. So I assume it's some rule to even go in the building. But like at a certain point, like I know it's different from somebody watching on TV than being there, but looking at it just made me feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Well, you know what else too?
Looks like too much.
Masked or otherwise, if they're all crowded together for that amount of time, and even the CDC says that after a while, like if you're just exposed to somebody for like 40 minutes, mask or not, it doesn't work.
Right.
The masks aren't meant to be sitting in the middle of a giant crowd.
Yeah.
So
and certainly Cowboy Stadium were not masked.
Right.
And they were indoors too. So
I'm curious to see now. Like I said, again, I've not followed it, so I can't say this with certainty. But I have not seen anything bad come out of NASCAR line crowds. But you got to remember too that at a NASCAR track like at Bristol, the last one that I saw, that place holds 160,000 people. So you put 20,000 in there, and they were spread out pretty good. So I don't know. I'm curious to see how this plays out because it's really going to be interesting.
I think it was on Thursday or Friday that the Chiefs announced that one person from their season opener had tested positive.
Yeah, but that's pretty good.
Yeah, well, because how many did they have? They had like 16
or 17, I thought. Yeah,
around there. Yeah, 12, 14. It's up there.
That's not bad. And again, it's open air stadium, but who knows?
Hey, if you want to go be the canary in the coal mine, by all means go, but don't expect me to do it.
Sure. Like I said, just looking at it, I was like, yeah, it's only been a few months, but that does not make me feel comfortable.
I was hanging out with some friends on Saturday night, and there were 8 people there, all spread out, and I'm still like, this is too many. So you're not getting me in the stadium for a while, but yeah.
The game that those poor saps were at, because there were some Falcons fans in that building. And oh boy!
Man, imagine you're risking. Oh no!
What was the Super Bowl scores? 28
to 3.
28 to 3.
It's the Falcons' biggest blown lead since the Super Bowl.
Also happened in the state of Texas too. That Super Bowl was in Houston.
That's true.
So you're up. They're up 29-10 going into the fourth quarter.
They were up 20 points.
They're up 20-0 for a while. Yeah,
they were up 20-0 at one point. Yeah, 99.9% chance to win at one point.
And it's not even like they got shut out. They got 39 points.
Yeah, they
39 points and no turnovers.
Matt Ryan threw 4 TDs.
And as soon as the Cowboys recovered the onside kick.
Oh my God! Look, that was one of the dumbest things I've ever seen.
I am constantly amazed at how football players do not understand the rules of football. Some of it I get. Like this is football. This is the sport of moves common to the game and all that sort of garbage. But like, it brings me back to like when Donovan McNabb didn't know there were ties, and like these guys that don't understand the coin flip rules. It's like onside kick. The most important thing, if it's happening, it is intimately important that you know how to address that.
Well, especially if you're on the fucking hands team that's going to be trying to recover. Like,
I get it. It's a different kick. You know, he put it on his side with no tee, and it's spun, and maybe you're like, oh, I don't know what the hell to do.
But that goddamn kick was rolling by Falcons players who just stood there looking at it.
But you know what it is? Because all these guys here is like, it has to go 10 yards.
Yeah, but that only applies to the kicking team.
Right. But they don't think about that, Mike. They just think,
how do you not think about
They just go,
I'm gonna blame that entirely on coaching.
Oh, 100%.
Because
I mean, at this point, is there any reason why Dan Quinn shouldn't just be fired? God damn.
Well, I mean, you know what's going to happen now is every team in the NFL this week is looking at special teams, is looking at that play and going, you fucking guys, every single special teamer, especially if you're on the hands team around the NFL, they're like handing them out these, rule books, basically highlighting page 306, section D, like this is, you'll memorize this by the end of the day because we're not going to be the Falcons. We're not going to go out there and do that shit.
Did they have these? Was the onside kick rule different in the USF or not the USFL, the XFL or the AAF?
I don't think I ever saw an onside kick in either of those.
Well, I'm just asking because maybe if the Falcons hadn't been dressed like a team from one of those leagues, they might have actually reacted like an NFL team.
There were teams in both the XFL and AAF that looked much better than the Falcons. So,
yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, you put them out there in clown suits, so you can't be surprised when they act like clowns.
God.
They do look terrible. Yeah.
Oh my God! You know what? That uniform would almost be passable if they just put white pants with it. It wouldn't be great, but it'd be better.
I don't think that. I don't know. The whole thing. The ATL is dumb. The stripe is dumb. The giant logos are dumb. Like the
Mike, those aren't stripes. They're stoops. Remember that.
Oh, right.
The Falcons uniforms, looking at them, and I think it's the same kind of feeling I have about the Rams bone uniforms. From a distance, the concept, not terrible. With where you lose it is in the details.
Yeah.
Like the concept of an all black Falcons uniform with big crisp white numbers and red accents. It's like, yeah, that sounds good. And like looking at it from afar, you're like, yeah, that's passable. And then they zoom in for a second, and you're like, oh, right. The numbers are stupid, and the ATL is stupid. And what is that stripe really? And you kind of lose it from there. And so I'm sorry, go ahead, Zach. No, just Dan, this is a fireable offense, that game for Dan.
Oh,
right. Like I pulled up his record, and his record overall isn't terrible. It's 43-39. He went 8-8, then 11-5 when they lost to the Super Bowl. But again, they lost in the Super Bowl in the greatest way possible. Then they were 10-6, lost the Eagles in the first round. Then 7-9 and 7-9, and now they start this year 0-2.
Well,
with this last game being this catastrophe.
Again, well, for as bad as Quinn may be, or mediocre, or only slightly above average. I mean, Adam Gase and the Jets. You got to wonder the things are on fire in New York, and I mean. Yeah, Adam Gase's offense is shit, but their defense against a crippled team, you give up 55 yards on 3rd and 31.
Wow.
I mean, there's the Jets are very quickly approaching. Like, it's probably one of the earliest signs in a season that I can remember, and feel free to correct me, where you have a franchise that is essentially packing it in. Like, I mean, usually teams
everybody thought the Jaguars would be like the dumpster fire. No, man. I mean, they've shown life.
They've fought a little bit. I think the thing that when we're talking about like guys getting fired, the sign before somebody getting fired is always the vote of confidence, right?
Right.
Like, no, I stand behind my guy. And when it comes to teams packing in early and all that sort of thing, I think this is the earliest vote of confidence I ever heard, because going into week 2, this was before Sunday, the Jets owner was like, "Oh, Adam Gase is one of the most brilliant offensive minds I've ever worked with."
Is he though?
And it's like,
I don't see it. I mean, where was he at Miami before this?
I forget the record, but like for all of his years coaching in the NFL, every year that he hasn't had Peyton Manning has been pretty bad in terms of like offensive numbers and efficiency. And
Funny how that works out, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean,
and to his defense, you were working with some terrible Miami teams, and we've seen like what else was at quarterback in Denver.
Okay. To actually defend the Dolphins for a moment though, like they're 0-2 this season, but since Gase left Miami, like under was it Flowers, like they haven't been amazing. Obviously, they're 0-2 this season, but they've actually shown marked improvement in terms of actually being, a football team that can actually go out there and be competitive. So, like, I'm not even sure if it's like you can blame the players, you can blame, the Miami team on instead of Gase, because like they got rid of him, they changed coaches, and they're trending in a better direction at the very least.
So
I've heard that he was a bad fit from the start with the Jets. People were scratching their heads when they hired him because he just doesn't. I forget what it is. Maybe Zach, maybe you remember, because I think we might have still been doing the football show back when he got hired.
He's just a weird dude.
There was an argument against him being the coach of the Jets, especially with Sam Darnold coming in. And I don't remember what it was, but it was like he's a bad fit for this. He's not the right guy for this job.
I mean, have you guys heard what noted Jets fan Larry David has said about him?
No, but it's probably pretty funny, I would imagine.
He stinks?
No, he said, I don't like Adam Gase. He wears hats. I don't trust men who wear hats.
Very appropriate.
Close enough, right?
Yeah.
So,
but like, I don't know. The Jets are just absolutely awful. And
I don't even want to waste air talking about them, to be fair.
Yeah, you know what? Let's go back to something funny.
Hold on. Let's go back to the Cowboys Falcons.
That's what I was gonna. No, that's what I was gonna talk about. The stat that I found So the Falcons, as Zach pointed out, had 0 turnovers and scored 39 points. In the history of the NFL, ever since turnovers have been recorded as a stat, teams that have scored 39 or more points with 0 turnovers have been 440 and 0.
Wow!
If you score,
way to go Falcons.
If you score 39 or more points and don't turn the ball over, you had like 100% chance of winning the game until the Falcons.
Another stat similar to that. In the past 20 seasons, teams leading by 15 or more points in the final 5 minutes of regulation had a record of 1,875 and 6.
The Falcons, everyone. The Atlanta
so
Falcons.
That's what now? Twice, and when did they go to the Super Bowl? 3 years ago?
2 7 to 9 years, a first round loss. So it's 4 years since. But
in 4 years, they've got 2 of the most epic collapses in the, not just in, over like in a season or 2, in the history of the game.
Yeah.
Twice in 4 years.
I mean, and you're wasting potentially, easily a Hall of Famer in Julio Jones, and Matt Ryan is probably on the short list.
I've been saying, I have been saying it since that Super Bowl loss. Greg, I know you've been saying it right along with me, and I think that this game just absolutely proved it.
Yep.
Ever since that Super Bowl loss, the only way forward that will actually show results is blowing it up, because once that Super Bowl was over, this team became the team that blew the 28-3 lead in the Super Bowl.
You got to burn it all down after that.
You got to fire the GM. You've got to fire the coaching staff. You've got to trade or release everyone. Go back to the throwbacks. Reset the franchise.
Fuck it. Move back to Fulton County Stadium. Take it all the way back and start over.
There's a lot of I was reading an article, sort of a smaller version of this, discussing the Arizona Cardinals and how they embraced the sunk cost fallacy in getting rid of Josh Rosen in year 2 to trade up to number 1. And that was sort of like one of the most anti-NFL things that has ever occurred, because typically once you pick that first round quarterback, regardless of how clearly dog shit they are, you generally stick with them for like 3 to 5 years.
Baker Mayfield.
Yep. And with the Browns are currently experiencing this. But the Falcons in that case should have there was no victory to be had for them, because either they tear it down to cleanse themselves of an obviously horrific loss and then piss off their fans who have just been like, well, what the fuck? We just made the Super Bowl. Like, what are you guys doing? I mean, there's no good way to be had here, but instead what we've witnessed is the slow, agonizing death of
a franchise.
Well, and I even know if the death of a franchise, just like a waste. This whole experience with the Falcons, and it's like you can lose a Super Bowl. It's fine, and teams have remained competitive and lost Super Bowls. But when you lose a Super Bowl like that, even if it's to the greatest of all time, you just you're haunted.
I understand not tearing it down like immediately after, because like you said, you just went to a Super Bowl, and the next year, okay, you make the playoffs, and it's a rough game against the Eagles, who end up winning the Super Bowl. Okay, but I think after the last 2 7-9 years, they should have been making their changes going into this year. Because like, even if you want to stick around with Matt Ryan, like, because these quarterbacks like him don't fall off trees, although it seems like they're coming more and more quickly. Like, you got to fix it. Like, you have the mental anguish from that season, and you have 2 subpar 7-9 years, and it's not like the NFC South is some juggernaut. Like, it's been the Saints and everybody else. A banged up Cam Newton, a terrible Buccaneers team, and then like, how can you not feast on some of that and make the playoffs in either the last 2 years? Because they do have talent, and they've squandered it, and now they're at a point where they're 0-2. Even with one expanded playoff spot, they're not going to be contending for a playoff spot just based on the state of the rest of the NFC. Trade some guys away right now. Fire Dan Quinn. Trade away Julio Jones for draft picks and whatever, and move on.
Yeah, I think if you start the season out 0-2, that's one thing. But weren't they competitive in both games? Didn't they lose? Didn't somebody come from behind to beat them last week too? Not anything this
No,
bad,
well,
but...
they played the Seahawks in week 1, and it was kind of a close game.
Yeah.
They're competitive. I mean, they're very much like they're playing 8-8 football. I mean, at worst,
right? But they've
got a hell of an offense. I think they can score points. They've proven that. But man, oh man, that defense.
Just to give you an idea of how dumb Chicago sports fans are, there are a number of Bears fans who 2-0 Chicago Bears. They would rather be the 0-2 Falcons with that offense than the 2-0 Chicago Bears.
Well,
people are that stupid.
But when it comes to let's talk about the team on the other side for a second too, because I think as devastating as this is for the Falcons, that was a godsend for Mike McCarthy and for the Cowboys, because if the Cowboys go down 0-2, despite playing the Rams who looked good and the Falcons who have been putting up points, if they're 0-2, they're toast. They probably still win the division because that division is bad. But if you got the Cowboys 0-2 with all the talk around Dak and all the talk around Mike McCarthy and what are they going to do? That they pulled the conversation out of the fire, if you will.
Hey, Greg, before we continue talking about the Cowboys, can you get my screen up there just so we can all appreciate this? We're discussing America's team. All right, so we got to have.
Okay. My God, so sorry about that.
All right, so let's show some respect. All right, this is America's team, and what we witnessed.
We need the NFL.
Does that make Mike McCarthy America's coach?
Don't.
Yes.
Don't.
Well, and with McCarthy too, if they had lost this game, you could have pinned it on him too, because not only were they down 20-0 early, but then they went for the 2-point conversion too early, didn't get it. And they were lucky as hell. Like, seriously, if it wasn't for the Falcons staring at the football, rolling on the ground for 10 yards, the Cowboys lose that game, and Mike McCarthy's all of a sudden on the hot seat.
That's when I go back to the coaching thing. You cannot. Look, all four of us, if we were coaching special teams and said, okay, our onside kick's coming up, you're defending it, or you're the receiving team, it doesn't have to go 10 yards. We all know this, right? Wouldn't that be the thing, like, you would drill into your special teams, like, just get the ball,
jump on it as soon as you see it?
I mean, they that ball rolled past them like it was fucking like spewing COVID off of it as it went by. Like, I'm not going near that.
It's like they got the fair catch in their mind to where it's like, let it bounce. We're trying to get more yards out of this, and
then we'll just down it. It doesn't work like that, fellas.
Yeah, I don't know. Clearly,
and you know
a failure.
How hard it is to convert an onside kick with these new rules. That's another thing.
That's
the Falcons were the Cowboys beat like 98% against odds to do that. Because I think last year, would we have 2 last year, and they were both happening in the same game, oddly enough, the Texans?
Yeah, because you have to have the rules are you have to be balanced on both sides of the kicker now.
Right.
So you can't just overload and blow people up. But,
So the Falcons, not only did they blow that big lead and then watch the ball roll by, like I said, like it was spewing COVID off it left and right. And, on top of all that, they let the Cowboys cash in on some pretty damn long odds just to recover that thing. It's unbelievable.
And even when the Cowboys did recover it, the Falcons weren't exactly playing defense when they got back on the field.
But but here's the question though: the Cowboys. I don't know if you guys watched it. It was on here, so I got to see it. Did you think the Cowboys? I mean, did they ever strike you as like, okay, they've got it together now? As much as just like we're coming back on this team that's hapless.
No,
do?
I never got the sense that it was like, oh, now the Cowboys are clicking. It was mostly just, it was just mostly like the Falcons were desperately flailing around.
Yeah, it wasn't like with the Super Bowl with the Falcons. You kind of had the sense of inevitability.
You kind of were like in that Super Bowl, once you saw Tom Brady turn on, it was kind of like a Terminator, where it was like, oh well, this is happening and you're not stopping it.
Yeah, it was like the football version of Duncan Keith back in the Blackhawks days. Just like, okay, he's gone into Terminator 2000 mode, and that's it.
Yeah,
I never felt that way with the Cowboys. It just didn't happen.
No, they weren't like they didn't start dominating. They didn't start clicking or anything. It's just the Falcons just kept making dumb choices and just letting them stick around.
I know that derp isn't a big thing anymore, but that was basically like you just watched them like derp away the whole fucking game. They had to bring back a classic.
But yeah, no. I mean, the risk of sounding like a broken record, this is proof positive that Super Bowl is still haunting this team. And the only way that you're going to get over it is if you fire management, fire the coaching staff, find every player on that team who was there for that Super Bowl, and you release them or you trade them away, and you get you get as much as you can out of them. And then
I agree.
And you know what? Again, go to the throwbacks, hit the reset button as hard as you can. Hit the reset button.
I can see Mike just like hauling ass to Georgia, and he's like laying this plan out, and he's got a couple slides for like Matt Ryan, you trade, Julio Jones, you trade. But here, I want to spend the next 45 minutes of my presentation on the uniforms and why they must be changed.
No, I mean, okay, look. I made this joke when the Falcons unveiled their current uniforms, but it's even more poignant now. That whole great black to red to black gradient. I mean, you might as well just Nike speak that as saying this represents how we have it's like we have big lead. The gradient from black to red indicates how we go from leads to deficits. Like it's absolutely amazing. And I don't know how you don't at least fire Dan Quinn. Like never mind the players, but like the coaching staff needs to go, because everybody on that team, even the players on this team who weren't there for that Super Bowl, know about the Super Bowl. And it's one thing to just go like that happened 4 years ago, it's out of our mind, whatever, it doesn't affect us. But then when like the same thing happens, now all of a sudden people are going to start talking about that Super Bowl again. And so you need, and if you just stick with this, at the very least, if you stick with the same coaching staff, you're just going to have that funk there, and it's not gonna get better.
It's time to call up Hugh Jackson, start a new era. Down at
he's a good way to cleanse the palate, that's for sure.
Yeah. I mean, you want a hard reset? He'll reset you back to 0-16, and then there's nowhere to go but up.
Speaking of Hugh Jackson, here, let me see if I can send this in our chat, because he's on Cameo now. If you know
oh my God, you got to be kidding me.
And one of our listeners sent this to me on Twitter. Joe, we would know him as Funky Bunky, I believe.
Oh, okay.
From back in the day.
That's Joe?
I believe so.
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought Joe was somebody else. All right.
Here,
Funky Bunky got banned, didn't he, Mike?
He did, yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
He
Well,
did.
so
Put it in our
we
private
appreciate
chat.
your continued patronage.
Andy, you can bring this up, but yeah, Hugh Jackson is he's on Cameo for $65. You can get him to record a video.
Oh no!
Hi, I'm Hugh Jackson. I will fuck your team to the end of
All right.
time.
Here, I will
fuck
share this.
your team back to the Stone Age.
Parental warnings for any
Here we go.
children
Yeah.
about to listen to the
All right.
Hugh Jackson here.
I got a serious rap for the Browns fans. This is all about some wings and pizza. So stay with me here.
Wings and pizza.
Now from the top, we got to make it drop. That's some wings and pizza. Now get a bucket and a mop. That's some wings and pizza.
Yes, this is actually the kids' mod version of WAP.
That's some wings and pizza. Macaroni in a pot. That's some wings and pizza. Lyrics, song brought to you by Sir Master Hugh Jackson Flash. Rapping to you live about some wings and pizza.
What?
my
So
God.
that was
What?
apparently Hugh
Has
Jackson's
anybody-
kids' mod version of WAP, of WAP, which
Yeah.
After
Jesus.
seeing that,
Yeah.
does anyone have any further questions on how that guy went 0-16? Just saying.
So my question is, what did Ben Shapiro have to say about any of this?
oh boy.
I wanted to ask. Oh, sorry.
Wings and P word.
Did you? My last, I one football
Yeah.
question I wanted to run by you guys. How have things been as far as you watch games? I feel like we've reached the zenith of useless kickoffs.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen pretty much all touchbacks? Have there been a lot of returns?
See, this is
Yeah.
where
There was one return in the Patriots Seahawks game last night that I saw. He
This
got us
is
like the
kind-
13-yard line.
this is kind of where I like the AAF how the AAF handled it, which was to get rid of kickoffs entirely, right? So it's like if you score a touchdown, the other team gets the ball back, they just start on their 20. And that's just how it is. Like you just it seems to me that is a better way. And then the XFL had a kickoff that was that they still had it, but they did it a bit differently, which I thought was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
So
I wanted to
there
run that
are-
by you. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, when it comes to that stuff, I was funnily enough having discussion with like other Rams fans on Twitter. Really, because right now the Rams don't have like a regular kick returner. Like in the past you'd have your Dante Halls or something like that. Somebody that was like, this is what they do. They maybe be your third best wide receiver, but they're a damn good kick returner. Like the Rams don't have that. Cooper Kupp is the kick returner, and he fumbled a kick return that if he had just not caught it, would have gone in the end zone probably. And just be a touchback. So I think that we could probably, because the kickers are so good at this point and there are so many touchbacks, probably just get rid of that stuff. Because the only thing that I see now is it's more often going to turn out bad than good if you try to make a big return out of it.
Yep.
Well, so
Right.
I got my screen up here, Greg. So I wanted to show you. This is we've seen it before, but just to reiterate, the XFL kickoff I think is actually is totally brilliant. So essentially, how it works: kick from the 30, and these guys are all stationary; they do not move. That's the whole thing with kickoffs in the NFL is that there's all this collision occurring from guys running from this side down to guys on
20
this side.
yards apart. Yeah.
Correct. And so now the guy just receives it, and then the contact initiates, and then they can, you can have a relatively safer return. Like to me, this is like the greatest thing the XFL ever did. And I am positive the NFL is going to steal it, and they should.
Excuse me, Tommy Maddox.
I mean, I don't know.
No, he hate me. I mean, come on now.
Yeah, I think honestly, I think if the NFL is going to go anywhere with this, it won't be to that. I think if anything, they're just going to get rid of it.
That would be
Just
disappointing.
Just give it a ball.
Yeah, I think I don't know, Zach. I think that because you got. I mean, I don't know how many people are just specifically kick return specialists, but the union is going to step in on anything they think will cost them jobs. So that you've always got to think about the union when you're doing these things, because they're going to go, wait a minute, if it's going to cost us jobs. So I'm with Andy. I think that at least if not the exact XFL version of that, a modified version of somehow to do it that way, I think would be good, because we did see a couple returns for touchdowns in the XFL using that system. Not a lot,
I mean,
but it was still way better than watching the ball sail into the end
and
zone.
it's a dynamic, it's a dynamic of the game that it adds a twist and it adds new possibilities. It changes. There's plenty of special teams plays between field goals and punting and fakes and all this stuff that is vital to the game of football.
Sure.
And a kickoff is meant to be part of that. And right now, it's just such a waste of time. The touch badger is such bad television. It's not entertaining. It's not useful. And when guys bring it out, they're always like 9 yards deep in the end zone. And all it does is piss me off because it's like, what are you doing? Don't take it out from back there, you idiot.
Well, yeah, like the guy with the Patriot guy last night. He caught it with like 2 yards deep, and he made it out to about the 15.
Yeah,
so
you're just hoping that you get lucky and that you break something.
But I think they
like I said, more often than not, it just results.
It's pointless.
Yeah. I mean, they kick it out of the end zone 9 times out of 10. They fixed the extra point basically by moving it back. It's interesting now, at least, because now you go, well, boy, you really kind of need this, and they miss them way more than they used to. So if you can fix that, you can fix the kickoffs too. It's not hard to do without killing people in the process.
So we have a couple things else to touch on outside of the NFL. Last week we kind of talked about the Clippers, and the prophecy was fulfilled.
Never mind last week. You guys can go back, check the tapes. I called this when Kawhi signed with them last summer. I called this.
Guys, I gotta tell you, nothing made me more proud of my Los Angeles Clippers than that.
No joke. I have been waiting nearly all week for the show. I'm currently wearing my Kawhi Leonard Raptors jersey. This just barely won out over me deciding to break out a tux for this, because this is just brilliant.
Truthfully, my favorite team is the Lakers, and it always will be. My second favorite team for fun is the Clippers. Because it's like when you go to Game 7, like we talked about it last week, we're like, I don't want to jinx it or anything, and I didn't watch the first. I just don't watch the first half of NBA games. It's kind of not worth my time. But I'm keeping track of the score, and I look over and I'm like, oh my god, they're down 20 already, and it's like, maybe there's time though. Check back. Oh, they're still down 19. Okay. Oh my god, they're gonna do this, aren't they? Oh my god, they're gonna do it. And sure enough, the Los Angeles Clippers are the best. They're the best.
See the thing.
So reliable.
See the thing about it, right, is that you want to know what this, what this kind of reminds me of? The Sharks reverse sweep. Because
a little bit.
Because okay. The 2 games previous that the Clippers had lost to allow the Nuggets to get to Game 7, the Clippers actually had chances to win both of those games. They were up double digits in both of those games.
They were up in games 5, 6, and 7. They were up a combined 47 points.
Yep. But Game 7, pretty early, they checked out and the Nuggets just ran away with it.
And a lot of that has to do with Paul George. And Paul George, I'm curious to see how it goes, because he was dog shit. He had 10 points. He was 4-16. He was bricking. They were down 18, 19 points.
Side of the backboard.
He hit the fucking side of the backboard. And after the game,
I could do that. No, seriously. If you're paying someone to do that, pay me, Clippers. I'll hit the side of the backboard for you all night
long, man. Yeah.
So, and after the
Mike
game,
and I will take 1/3 of his salary, split it, and do exactly that for you. No problem.
Exactly, right?
he and Kawhi Leonard combined for 1 free throw attempt.
Wow.
They were garbage. And after the game, he was telling all his teammates, don't leave. Please don't leave LA. We need to stay together, win championships.
Well, did you hear him at the podium too?
What did he say?
Well, because they asked Patrick Beverley, and it's oh yeah, no, this was always championship or bust. And then somebody asked the same thing of Paul George. He's like, no, it wasn't necessarily championship or bust. This is our first year together. We're still gonna.
It's our first year together. You've only got 2.
Well, and it's not even that. You're gonna tell me that it wasn't championship or bust, dude? This is the NBA. That's not how that works. You got Kawhi Leonard. They got you. The Clippers traded away. Let me find.
Oh my god! This is so brilliant.
The Clippers, for your dumbass, they traded Gilgeous Alexander, a player, Danilo Gallinari, the expiring contract, their 2022 their 2022 first round pick, their 2024 first round pick, their 2026 first round pick, Miami's 2021 first round pick, Miami's 2023 first round pick, and pick swaps in 2023 and 2025 to Oklahoma City. They traded 5 guaranteed first round picks.
I didn't think. I thought because of the Ted Stepien rule, they weren't even allowed to do that anymore.
They traded first round picks in 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024, and 2026.
Jesus.
To pick up you. And you go out and do 4 of 16, 2 of 11 from 3, 1 free throw attempt. Go to the goddamn basket. If you're not hitting your outside shots, dribble into the paint, draw a foul. Do something. But no, the Clippers packed up their tents and went home. Because the rest of the team was crap. And Kawhi, he kept trying. Kawhi was 6 for 22. He was terrible.
See, here's the thing. Here's what that's honestly what really blew my mind. Because, all right, I watched the Raptors championship run last season, right? Okay, so and of course the big exemplifier of this is that last second basket that he made in Game 7 against the Sixers to win it for Toronto. Right. But like that is merely the most dramatic version of something that he was doing all those playoffs, that entire playoff series, which was Kawhi. When the Raptors needed him to step up last year, he stepped up and he stepped up big. Like he went above and beyond what was asked of him to, do what needed to be done, and the Raptors won a championship out of it.
And to be clear, I don't even think I put this on Kawhi because unlike Paul George and unlike somebody like James Harden or anybody else that you can label as like a playoff choker right now in the NBA, Kawhi has 2 Finals MVPs.
Yeah,
he's immune to any of the choking criticism you want to throw at him.
Well, no, that's why I'm bringing it up. That I saw that I saw him for the Raptors like do the opposite of choking. He was clutch, and then now so I watched the end of that game, and by God, like I was like, this is not the same guy, and it's really weird. It's really weird because. Ever since Kawhi went to the Raptors, there was, the talk was he doesn't want to be in Toronto. He doesn't want to play for the Raptors. And then, the fact that, he won a championship and still bolted kind of led credence to that. Los Angeles is close to his hometown. It's where he wanted to be. And so to see, and yet when you compare it, it's like when he played for the Raptors, a team that by all accounts he didn't want to be on, when it came time for him to, be clutch, he was clutch. And yet, the team that he, one would think he wants to play for, the Clippers, Game 7, he's just skidding out, and it was just weird for me to see just watching that game.
The Clippers are now 0-8 in games where they can advance to the Western Conference Final.
Yeah,
that's
and I mean,
incredible. It's incredible because it's not even like it's completely the same group. They did it with the Lob City version of them with Chris Paul and Blake Griffin and a lot.
Although you want to know what the common denominator was between that team and this team?
That they're the Clippers?
Doc Rivers was the coach.
Well, yeah, Doc Rivers. Nominally, Doc Rivers has the most Game 7 losses in NBA history.
He's he's the only coach in NBA history to blow 3-1 leads.
All true.
Wow, really?
Yes.
Wow.
But on the other hand, Doc
That's
Rivers
impressive.
also has an NBA title. And
Yes.
Doc Rivers he's 6-8 in Game 7. So it's not like it's a Bruce Boudreau where he has never won a title and always loses Game 7s. It's like, no, Doc Rivers loses a lot of Game 7s and he's lost some pretty dramatic series, but he also wins enough to balance it out.
Who did he coach? Was he the Celtics coach when he won?
Yes, he won with the Celtics, yeah.
Okay.
But he blew 3-1 leads with Orlando and then the 2 Clippers ones.
I forgot he was with the Magic.
Yeah. So
now,
just to kind of go off, I'm stealing this post from the CCSLC user German Shepherd posts who wins. he posts who wins: a team with the defending Finals MVP, a guy who finished third in MVP in MVP voting last year, 2 sixth man of the year award winners, a coach with finals experience, or a fat Serbian man and his friend Jamal.
Wow.
Again, when we have these discussions of like what's the worst franchise in professional sports,
Oh yeah, no.
like it's the Los Angeles goddamn Clippers. Like again, the Clippers have now existed as a franchise, including the Buffalo Braves and the San Diego Clippers and the LA Clippers, 50 seasons without reaching the conference final. The conference final. This damn franchise can't get out of the second round. Everybody falls backwards into the conference finals once in a while.
Not only that. I mean, I honestly think, as brutal as it is, saying been around for over 50 years, no conference finals appearances, I think that actually downplays how bad they've been, because it's not like they've been playoff contenders all that time and just couldn't punch their ticket. Like, they have been dog shit for the vast majority, of this period. It's only really since the Lob City, years that they've actually been a consistent playoff team. And what's really funny about that, what's truly hilarious, is that, when the Lob City, because the Lob City Clippers started...
For reference, again, in the Clippers' 50 seasons as a franchise, they have qualified for the playoffs 15 times.
But like...
So 35 seasons in which they've been bad.
So, but you go again, and you just look at, let's look at some Clippers history, right? Because the Lob City Clippers came about actually at a very opportune time for them, because that was around the time that Kobe's career started to wind down, and the Lakers
were down. The Clippers were taking over the town.
The Clippers were taking over the town. And you want to know what's hilarious is that this team that had this, this inferiority little brother complex, as soon as they got a whiff that maybe they'd start being the new hot shit in LA, them and their fans, and I want to make this distinction clear, because they're both at fault. Both the team and their fans started talking so much shit. I mean, you go back, and yet, despite all the talk, it ends the same way. You look at the one that I'm reminded of. You go back to last summer, right, when the Clippers got Paul George and they got Kawhi Leonard. Yeah. Do you remember the fucking spectacle Steve Ballmer made of himself?
Well, and that's the thing too, is like, not only do you have this, like they still have, again, they have all these, they have Kawhi and Paul George for next year, so maybe they fix all that ails them in next season, whenever the hell that starts. They just got approved to build that stupid arena in Inglewood. Mm-hmm. So if they continue to be the fucking Clippers, and then they try to open up this brand new basketball palace being the goddamn Clippers,
it's going to be hilarious.
Not the NBA champion Clippers, but the fucking Clippers.
Well,
it's just, that thing is going to be torn down as soon as it's opened.
It's just so funny, because you look at I want to go back to again the trash talk that the Clippers were talking when they when they got Paul George, they got Kawhi Leonard. I'm not from LA, but I've seen the billboards that they put up. Street lights, not spotlights, like all that kind of stuff.
Like hardworking, gritty team.
The hardworking, gritty. They really, we all ridiculed them for their Compton alternates, right?
They don't get to wear those next year.
Nah,
they lost any ability to wear those next year.
And so it's like,
seriously, Kawhi, Paul George, go through Compton wearing those jerseys. See how many people are going to be like, "Yeah, good job, guys." No, see what happens.
Yeah, what when they're all when everyone actually living in Compton is wearing either Los Angeles Lakers championship hats or LeBron jerseys.
Yeah, you're all going to be surrounded by dudes in Kobe jerseys and Black Mamba jerseys and the whole thing. Yeah,
yeah, no, but like the whole thing is just it's fucking hilarious, because this team talked so much trash and their fans talked so much trash. And you know what? I bet a few of you are listening and you're going, Mike, you're a Maple Leafs fan. You know what? I am a Maple Leafs fan, and you know what? That is a miserable existence. But you know what else I have?
The Leafs have won in the second round a couple times.
The Leafs have made conference finals in the past 50 years. The Maple Leafs, even though it hasn't happened in a long ass time, the Maple Leafs still have a lot of Stanley Cups that I can at least point to and be like, at least this team has amounted to something. Los Angeles Clippers fans, your team has amounted to nothing. Absolutely nothing. For the longest time, you were an amusing anomaly to me as a kid growing up in Southern Ontario because I'd play NBA Jam and I'd be like, oh, I know who the Lakers are. Who are the Los Angeles Clippers? Is this like the generic created team that they put in? Like, that's what you were, guys, and that's what you're always going to be.
The Los Angeles Clippers' greatest achievement is winning 3 games in the second round.
Mm-hmm.
Think about that.
Speaking of conference finals and the Stanley Cup,
Sure.
Oh,
Yeah.
there are certain things you just don't do.
I
Now
can
that
talk about that all day.
we've entered hour 3 of shitting on the Clippers.
You know what? We just might do it again next week too because we fucking deserve it.
But it's making a segment.
Like, I'm not kidding.
It's time for weekly Clippers shit with Mike
It's just
and Zach.
embarrassing.
Steve Ballmer, go fuck yourself.
Why would you voluntarily be a fan of that team? I do not get it.
Ask Lights Out. Ask Lights Out, man.
I just like, even if it's one of those counterculture things, go be a Blazers fan. Like, I wouldn't dare be a fucking Clippers fan.
At least with the Blazers, you get cool uniforms.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
you got the sash. That's cool.
You have an attitude that, you know. the
Come on, these are
Clippers-
cool, guys.
Oh
Yeah,
my gosh! Again, though, that's like the Sharks, like all black jersey when they blew that lead to the Kings wearing those black jerseys, and it's like this is the Clippers version on that. Like, how do you roll those uniforms out next year and keep any sort of dignity?
I don't know.
No, seriously, the Clippers cannot wear those Compton jerseys next year. Like, you can't do it. Like, we're all going to laugh at you. All we're going to do is laugh at you. Yes, it's just it's beautiful, and like, part of me wishes the Clippers were better. Like, there is part of my head where when they lost, I was like, man, I am kind of disappointed that it's not that the Lakers aren't going to be the ones to put the Clippers in their place. But I gotta say, this is so much funnier. This is so.
I knew when it got to be 3. It's like, I think it was 3-3. Well, 3-3 obviously. I was like, that. You knew it was like with the Sharks. You didn't need to get to Game 7 to know this is over. And I think it was when it got to be 3-2, maybe. I'm like, oh, this isn't going to be good. And then, you know, they tied it at 3-3. I'm like, now it's done. They're finished. They're not going to pull this off. And they just clippered again because that's what they do. They clipper. And maybe that's what their job is. Maybe that's what they're there for. To be a verb, to be the clipper, you know, to do the whole clippering thing. I don't know.
Somebody's got to do it.
Somebody's got to do it, yeah. And who better?
I
Who's
want
better
to read
suited?
this chart before then we can move on, just because we can transition to hockey a little bit.
Sure.
The Clippers have not been to a conference final. Again, they haven't won in the second round in 50 seasons. The next closest team is the Hornets, 30 seasons, which that's technically 2 different franchises, and
The Bobcats are somewhere in there. We're not sure where.
well, they're actually on this list too. The Blue Jackets are then after that. The Columbus Blue Jackets at 19 years.
hmm
The Houston Texans at 18 years. And the New Orleans Pelicans at 18 years.
Which, as you said, 2 of these teams are the same team.
Yeah, right. It's like, why are the Hornets on here twice? But yes. Anyway, the Stanley Cup.
Yeah. So just briefly, I mean, I have no personal major interest in the final here, but I did notice that the Tampa Bay Lightning touched the Prince of Wales trophy, and it was, I know,
Yeah.
and they happened to lose Game 1 to the Dallas Stars, and I have no feelings about it, but it was interesting to watch Pat Maroon fire a puck into the Dallas bench between periods and start a shit show. So that was fun, but. Otherwise, yeah, I just don't really give a shit about what's happening out there this year. I just really don't.
I'm following it. I'm interested, and I think the thing that I guess is kind of a weird circumstance for this final is it is the first Stanley Cup final between 2 Sun Belt teams as they are, and then it just happens to be being played in, ironically,
Edmonton.
Edmonton, Alberta. You have a team from Texas and a team from Florida playing in Edmonton, Alberta.
What a
For the Stanley
sacrilege.
Cup.
Hey, but look at this. The Stanley Cup kind of get to stay in Canada this year, sort of.
Yeah,
For a little while.
They took it down, but I wish they would have kept it up because you guys have seen the stage that they have. Kind of the backdrop for the games. Before the puck drop, they put the Stanley Cup up on the platform to like introduce it like during the starting lineups. They took it down, but I was like, why wouldn't you just keep it up there?
Mhm.
Like when I mentioned it, my girlfriend said it was kind of like the WrestleMania sign for you guys.
Yeah.
You could
The
just like,
logo.
stand at center ice and just point at the
So
puck.
what? JD Ben's pointing at the Stanley Cup.
Yes, yeah. Why not? That'd be fun, right? Just once a season, Patrick Kane and Jonathan Taves come out and just kind of point up at the.
So, just
Yeah.
real quickly on this, because we're just not getting to the finals. So, there is no chance that the 2020-2021 season starts on time, is there?
No, it's going to start
No.
December, I believe.
Well, the
that's not too
rumor,
bad.
the rumor is December,
Probably
but
early.
even Gary Bettman in his State of the League before Game 1 was like, it's probably being optimistic.
Yeah.
There's some people that think it may not even be going by January 1. Because
No.
the problem is, like, more than the other sports, hockey can't do its full schedule without fans.
It relies on gate
Right.
revenue more than the other
Yeah,
leagues
it's
do. Yeah.
way more than the other leagues, I would think. Yeah,
Yeah,
probably
well,
baseball second, and then the rest after that.
And they did some talk of like, well, maybe we do 4 mini bubbles, and each division plays in the bubble that it's in
That
for like
sounds.
half the season, and then we open it up when everything's better. And the players all kind of said like, man, we sacrificed enough bubble nonsense to do this.
So, well, really, to me, if you're going to do bubbles in the NHL and you need revenue, you got to put the bubbles where people are actually going to go to the damn game. So you don't put a bubble in the South. You put a
No, they all
bubble
have
in
to be
like
Canada. Like I
they'd
think
all,
that was-
they'd all have to be in Canada or near Minnesota or something like that. To people will actually go.
no, they'd have to be in Canada because Canada has been very strict about the border rules.
Yeah.
Because like
Fair enough.
the players were initially promised that like their family members were going to be able to join them for at least a conference final or at the very worst just the Stanley Cup, but they ran into a whole bunch of obstacles when it came to the border because they can't just like if your family's living in the States, they can't get across unless they're Canadian citizens.
No, and even then, it's a pain because I'm a Canadian citizen, and I had to drop out of a friend's wedding party because even though I am a citizen, crossing the border would still require me to quarantine for 2 weeks. So it's
I thought you were going to say you had to like drop out of an illegal plane with a parachute. Like,
No.
like, so you in.
no. Even with a Canadian passport, I would have to quarantine for 2 weeks because I'm coming from the United States.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Word of these bunch.
And but to the NHL's credit, at the very least, they got to the Cup final, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
When it came to all these bubbles and will it work? There's been no positive tests since the bubble games started, and they made it to the final. They're going to award the Stanley Cup. When the next season starts, who the hell knows? But they got through this one, and that's kind of a win in itself.
Yeah. And,
Well,
and
go
go
ahead.
no.
was-
Go ahead.
I was just going to say as far as the. No, I forgot what I was going to say, Andy. You're going to take it. I forgot.
Basically, the NBA has come out and said that they're speculating February, March. To me, that sounds. I mean, that's really late for either league, but I feel like that is probably a wiser estimate for when things would start. I mean, there's going to be. I know there's some college football coming back now, even though they discussed doing spring. I think a lot of people.
We haven't touched on that either.
Yeah, there's a little college football stuff I wanted to discuss. But I really don't, because the NHL has proven that you can do something that simulates a season and still keeps things relatively in order. I'm not too worried about it. Same with the NBA. They both handled things. And if they want to adjust locations or the ins and outs of the minutia about it and adjusting to potentially a vaccine, then cool, then they'll do it. And they've shown that we can have faith in them to execute it. At least, but I mean, I hesitate saying that I have faith in the NHL to do something right, but you know what I mean.
From the kind of rumblings that have been going on over the last week with all the league personnel finally making it to Edmonton for the final, it doesn't sound like the NHL is really in a rush to start next season. Like it sounds like
Yeah.
they are going to try to wait to see if they can get fans. And because again, like they don't have to deal with the problem that the NFL does, or yes, the NBA has the Toronto Raptors, but that's one team. Even MLS, they have a few Canadian teams. They've been able to have their season as it is, and I don't think the Canadian teams are playing up there. I'm not sure. I haven't really followed I followed the MLS's weird tournament they held. I haven't really been following the season that they've started to have again when they came back. But the border causes a big problem for the NHL more than any of the other leagues, just because of the amount of teams that are in it.
I'll be curious to see how. I mean, I think they're probably going to take their cue a little bit from what's going on in Dallas and in Kansas City and in the Florida NFL teams where they're having fans at games.
Yep. All this data is going to come back. It's all going to be useful stuff, and they'll be the first to announce it because their seasons are actually going to be ending here in the next few weeks. Zach, what was it you wanted to talk about college football? I have not watched any college football this year.
Well, it wasn't even going to be about the games because it's just the rigmarole that's gone on with. Well, the Big Ten went back on its word, right?
Yeah.
Again?
They're starting football next month.
They're starting.
Oh, I thought okay, they said no, then they came back. I thought they changed their minds again.
No, they said no, and they changed their minds, and now they're going to play at the end of next month is when they're going to start.
Yep.
They're going to do just an 8-game schedule and then a championship game, and then go on. And so that left the Pac-12 kind of in the lurch. Like, well, we already canceled, like for sure canceled, not just postponed. So then, like, we had this situation where players were writing letters to the governor and in Oregon and California, and then Oregon said, well, we've made these. If you can come to us with a plan, and then Gavin Newsom said a ridiculous thing of, "Oh no, we've never said that you can't play games in college, except when you read the rules. Yes, technically, they never said the games couldn't be played. It's just you can only have 12 guys at a time in a practice, and you can't touch each other." And so the San Jose Mercury News
offense, hop on the bus and get down here. I mean, is that how it's going to work or what?
Well, the San Jose Mercury News talked to a state health official, and they were like, "So what can teams do to practice?" And they're like, "Well, they could do mental exercises or VR
my God.
or 5-on-5." And it's like
mental exercise.
So
Tell me
nerds.
this isn't a government operation, huh?
Seriously, it's a bunch of nerds that have never taken part in a football practice ever in their life to know that like you can't just not play football and then start playing football. You can't just like talk about what you're going to do all week, then go into the game and do it. So now it sounds like the Pac-12 is the California. Basically, California passed some low-level ordinances, and the state of Oregon did as well. So all the states in the Pac-12 are now on board. The Pac-12 just needs to make an official plan. And I guess they're going to vote on it again next Thursday. But if they're going to play this fall, they're going to have to get something done by next Thursday. And so we went from a place where the Big Ten made the big move and the Pac-12 made the big move, and then the Big 12 and the SEC and ACC just kind of hung around. And once they played a couple weeks, the Big Ten was like, "Oh, well, I guess we can play, huh? All right, well, let's just do it." And then the Pac-12 was like, "What? Huh? You're doing what?" So
now will the Big Ten still be part of the playoff and all that at this point?
They'll be eligible.
Oh, for fuck's sake!
They're gonna play eight straight weeks, and then now everybody will play one extra game, but that extra game will be determined by the first place team in each division will play each other. The second place team in each division will play each other. The third, and so on down the line. So you'll get a thrilling game between the two worst teams in the Big Ten at the end of the year.
Nice.
So who? Rutgers and Maryland?
They'd be in the same division. So you get like Rutgers and I don't know Minnesota. Who knows?
Well, the reason I wanted to discuss college sports briefly was because this crossed my radar earlier today. So Ole Miss has created these stadium cups for this season. They're called Health. The theme is Healthcare Heroes. And they have all these different headshots from doctors and nurses and alumni, I assume, of Ole Miss. However, somebody spotted that on the cup, they used a headshot of a doctor, but that is not a real doctor. It is, in fact, a man called Johnny Sins, who is an adult film actor. Who
Did he play a doctor in a porno?
Yes.
Please tell. Yes,
at least twice.
Oh, there we go.
Amazing.
The image is likely taken from either of his fine films that he did that were doctor themed. There's plenty more. He's a very decorated star. Either his smash hit Doctor's Orders, or Let's Play Doctor. The latter for which he won an award for best scene on a vignette release for the Adult Film Awards.
Well, good for him.
So,
Yeah,
but it's hilarious because
is he an Ole Miss alum?
I know. I don't think so. I think they literally just searched
Doctor,
and because that's his like Twitter picture is like him just like in a doctor coat looking at it.
Wait, do we have a shot of this thing?
Yeah, let me pull it up here.
Okay, we got to see this.
Yeah, let me throw it over on the screen here. It's just what's crazy. Somebody had to identify that as like something's not right here. This
or somebody did a really nice troll job too.
Yeah, so there it is. I'll go on to share. So
look at it.
There's old Johnny Sins, and this is a still from Pornhub, I assume, of him, consulting his fellow nurses or doctors or whatever. But there he is on the cup, so it's kind of buried here amidst all these things. And there's old Johnny Sins just kind of looking sensually at the viewer,
looking smolderingly at the camera. Just
well, good for you, Johnny Sins. That's all right. Okay.
Yeah. But
wow,
I had a couple other strange bits of news just to share with you here, just to make you laugh a little bit.
Okay.
So in Detroit, a man was high as shit on Whippets, and he did something we all. What's that?
Well, do you need a screen for this?
No.
Okay,
not for this one. So he's high as hell on Whippets, and he decides to do something we've all wanted to do. We've done it in video games and stuff. It's the Dukes of Hazzard Blues Brothers jump, where he ramped a raised bridge.
Oh boy!
And there's no video of it yet. I hope to God there will be soon. But when he landed, he blew out all 4 of his tires and crashed.
Jesus.
But that was from Detroit. In Wisconsin, a man was strolling along the shore of a lake in Racine and found a package wrapped in aluminum foil, inside of which was some flowers, some foreign currency, and a fucking brain, a like whole brain.
Okay,
but it is not a human brain.
Sounds like some kind of weird spy drop off he stumbled onto.
Right. But it's not rotted. It was a fresh brain. They just don't know what it's from.
It's like it's like your mission is to recover the package. Inside will be 500,000 in euros and a monkey brain.
Right. I don't know.
Right.
But I did want to share this. This is some really cool video. Happened just a little bit before our show started. And let me pull it up here. The video is absolutely ludicrous, but it's simultaneously awesome. Got a stupid ad. It's got to go through here. So on the Dan Ryan Expressway, there is a man on a horse who decided to take his horse out for a ride. And Jesus, this ad is fucking terrible. There we go.
Yeah, you went to a local news site, Andy.
Oh my God.
That was your problem.
Jesus Christ.
As a member of the local news, I am so sorry.
I just want to play the goddamn video from the helicopter of the guy on his horse. Holy shit! Holy shit!
Somebody get accounting on the phone and bill all these motherfuckers that are putting free spots on our show.
Just a fucking mess. Anyway, does this guy show the fucking horse? It's him. That's the guy on the horse. Okay. So he's clearly he's a dude on a horse, and he's holding up traffic for miles, and he's just having a good old time. And he's it's not a small horse by any means. Oh my God, let me see if I can find a picture of the actual fucking horse. But it's pretty awesome video because he's just cruising around on one of the busiest expressways in America on a horse. There you go. That's
nice.
So
there you go. I mean, is there a law that says he can't be on a horse?
I don't know, but I like that the news had a speedometer up there just to show how fast he was going. I think he topped out at 16 miles an hour.
That seems about right.
I got to be honest. For all the shit we've seen on the news of late, this is really nice to see. It's just a nice distraction for 5 minutes.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly.
I agree.
I figured just to kind of light things up here.
Yeah.
Towards the end of the show.
Well, real quick, I wanted to ask you guys because I didn't get in on this last week. I heard you talk about like teams that are fool's gold as versus whatever.
Yeah, fool's gold,
So-
I guess, versus I don't know what diamonds in the rough or something. I don't know.
Yeah, but
Fool's
real
gold,
quick,
yeah.
like so we've got the Arizona Cardinals, Seahawks, and Rams all 2-0. We all on board with those three? We think they're all good.
The Cardinals, I'm really questioning.
I think based on the way the NFC looks, and I think with the extra playoff spot, I wouldn't be surprised if all three of those teams made the playoffs.
I think Kyler Murray's a player, man. I do.
I do too. The Rams are much cleaner and crisper than they have been. Russell Wilson is
those new uniforms
tearing it up, and yeah, Kyler Murray's got it. And now with the Niners being, the wounded dead, walking through there.
Yeah. Well, unless Nick Mullins can pull off whatever he did the last time that people got talking about him.
Yes, NFC West is a murderer's row, man. You like
it really
a tough
is.
division to win this year.
There's not an easy win on that. I mean, like in that division, there's just not one.
No.
I just do want to point out Tom Brady victorious, first win as a Buccaneer. So
Who did they play again?
the Panthers.
Okay.
Yeah,
I mean, the Bears are still the Bears are obviously fool's gold, 2-0. But I mean, they played 3 quarters of good football in 2 games. So I think
the Bucks, going back to when we first talked about it, I think that they're going to be right on the edge. They're a borderline.
Yeah,
if things go the right way, they're going to be okay. But otherwise, But
they're like a 9-7 team.
Yeah. I think you know what, Andy? It's funny. I think that the Bears and the Packers are both fool's gold. I don't think either one of these teams are as good as their record
The
indicates.
Packers have looked really good at 2-0.
On offense.
All those Jagoffs who picked the Minnesota Vikings to go to the Super Bowl sure are selling that fucking stock, right? Or just
This is
panicking
fucking
now.
this is fucking karma for Kirk Cousins and his bullshit, man.
It's my fault. It's my fault. I was the one that said they were going to win the division.
Well, I mean, they're a sexy pick, and I mean the Vikings. What worries me, and this is purely just irrelevant, but what worries me is that if they falter in this era, if they never make a Super Bowl or something, they're going to switch uniforms to something terrible. Like these are great uniforms the Vikings have.
Yeah, they're pretty good.
They're going to be associated with just kind of being shit, and it's just disappointing.
And then they're going
to win.
And after they, continue to not win, some marketing executive's going to go, you know what we need to shake the brand up? Black alternates.
Oh God.
Look who's dominating the AFC East. The Buffalo Bills are wiping their ass with the NFC East.
Circle the
right
wagons, man.
That's right. That's
Fantastic.
right.
Hey,
I've got a hot
this week. Rams and Bills undefeateds clashing in Buffalo.
I've got a overreaction that I'll carry over for another week. I think the Patriots are good, guys. I do.
Oh,
I
sure.
think they're gonna be a good team.
Yeah, no. I mean,
I don't think anyone thought they were
I'm
gonna
talking
be
like win the division.
They came within a hair of being 2-0. So
yeah, I don't know if I agree with their play call there at the end, but they were close enough.
Well, I mean,
But
any
we
team
were
that's coached
doing-
by Bill Belichick, that's not
Bill Belichick's always going to do well, and Cam Newton, I think, has proven like he's back in top form.
When we were doing the preview show, I said that I think these guys are going to be pretty solid, and I was not. I think they can win the division. I think they're going to be a lot better than people think they're going to be. I don't know. I'm still, another team. I'm sorry, Mike. I'm not really sold on the Titans either, even though they're 2-0, and they're my irrational confidence team.
They'll come back down to earth.
But my Cleveland Browns won a game on Thursday night. I don't know what you make of that. With the
the only thing I want to ask about that game. I hate when those two teams play, especially when the Browns put on the orange pants. It's just
the Brown. Okay, when the
orange
Browns
all over the place. But what did you think of the orange pants?
I don't like them. I
Oh,
don't.
No, I mean I like them, but it has to be against certain teams, and I much prefer the brown over white, to be honest.
I also usually like them. I don't like them against the Bengals.
No, well, that's a sin, right? They screwed up. Yeah. That was
See. To me, here's the thing. Like, if I were like football uniforms are, right? Like the Cleveland Browns would play as many games as they could possibly get away with wearing white over white, because that to me is like the classic Cleveland Brown look.
Agreed. Yeah, I'm there with you 100%.
Yep, same here. I like the orange pants. But I think it's got to be against the right team. It's got to be the right matchup, and that was not it.
That's the big thing. I'm not the biggest orange pant fan in general, but like if you're gonna do it, don't do it against another team that's primarily orange. It's too much.
Yeah, too much.
Even though the Bengals are 0-2, Joe Burrow's the real deal.
Yeah, he's good.
See, I think
it.
in a 17 playoff field, and I'm not saying the Bengals are going to do this, but I mean, I don't think they're as bad as that 0-2 indicates. Really, they've been competitive in both games, but then again, it was the Browns and the Bengals. It's like the two slow kids fighting on the playground. I don't know if you can walk away with anything from that.
You're not sold on Baker after.
No.
I'm sold on. I'm curious to see who Joe Burrows ends up playing for here in a few years after he gets the hell out of Cincinnati, because then he'll actually contend. With this, get the hell out of there. That poor bastard down there. He's realizing he's like, I'm in Cincy and they don't win here, and I
think
right down stupid uniforms, and I can't.
Right down to his number, he's Carson Palmer all over again.
Yep.
Yeah.
How about the Steelers? Because Big Ben is having sort of like a twilight season where he's sort of figured out that his body is being held together by like wire and roofies, and he's just sort of,
The thing with the Steelers is they have great receivers. They have awesome receivers, and if the defense can play good enough, Ben doesn't have to be run around, rough and tumble Big Ben anymore. He can just transfer to the pocket QB.
I am not the biggest Steelers fan in the world, but I'm happy to see them doing well because it kind of vindicates them in the whole AB situation. Where it's like, you know what? No, they really didn't need him. Like you said, Zach, they've got a really good receiver core. They didn't need the bullshit that came with Antonio Brown.
They're not going to win the division. They're going to be well behind the Ravens, but they'll be a playoff team, I think.
I'm just curious when Ben found religion, because he came off the field, right? I mean, then my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. It was like,
it's
really,
like,
dude?
aren't you the guy who still picks up like college girls at the bars? Like,
he just limps around bars in Pittsburgh with his dick hanging out of his pants. He's got a Yingling in hand, just kind of,
of course it's
looks
a Yingling.
around. Yeah, well,
of course it is.
Come here often.
Yeah. He's practicing. The whole religion thing is a practice for when he goes to jail. That's his prison practice.
Okay, fair enough. I believe every word of that.
It was kind of like the white person version of when Ray Lewis like suddenly became like a fucking street preacher in his final season.
Right. Yeah.
No, guaranteed. Within probably 5 years, there will be a Big Ben bloated mugshot from when he's like, he gets arrested for like part of a merch scheme or fraud or something, and then like some sort of drug thing. He's just a big sack of crap, and I'm fine with him and the Pittsburgh Steelers doing whatever. But I don't know. I'm not sure how I feel about the Steelers as a whole. They're a good team. They always contend, but it's too early for me to like buy. The Ravens, on the other hand, are just kicking everyone's ass.
Yeah.
And oh God, we've unleashed a beast there with the Ravens.
I'm happy to see. I'm happy to see Lamar doing well, especially because
he's a cool story.
It was an absolute. This just showed to me how like goddamn fickle sports fans are, because he had a great season last year, right? And then they ran up against the Titans, who are another team who were having a very strong season. And it's like the one team that had a strong season lost to another team that had a strong season. And suddenly everyone's like, Lamar Jackson, playoff choker?
No,
and I'm like,
the same thing happened the year before.
Oh, to the Chargers, yeah.
It's not just a one game problem. Like, he's gone into the playoffs twice. And hell, when he was at Louisville, it wasn't like it was Louisville. You're not exactly playing for college football glory there. But it's the fact that he's had a couple of great regular seasons, but now he's had two very subpar playoff games where he's been.
Well, that's true.
We know he can tear it up in the regular season. I don't think that's the question. The thing is now, like, okay, you've proven that you're an NFL QB. You've proven that you're an MVP. Now you got to go win. Like, and it's not even like we got to give you time to mature. Patrick Mahomes did it. What's your excuse?
That is fair, but the point I was getting at is simply that I think this season he's shown continued improvement. For example, we saw it last season, but I think, and it's only been 2 games this season, but I think we've seen in these 2 games, it's like not only is he a QB who can burn you on the ground, but like the dude is also a hell of a pocket passer when he needs to be.
True, but again, he's played the Dolphins, right? No, he played the Browns and the
Yes.
Texans.
Yes.
So
Speaking of which,
they play I think they play the Chiefs this week, don't they?
That'll be an interesting game.
Well, there you go. There's your game of the week. Clearly, like
well, let me ask you guys, which franchise is more shit, I guess, or which one is in a worse
The Los
position?
Angeles Clippers.
The Los Angeles, no, the the Houston Texans themselves 0-2 and not having a great start at all, or the Philadelphia Eagles also 0-2.
Eagles,
See-
they're all beat up and
See. I'm gonna disagree with the Eagles necessarily because, like, yeah, the Eagles are not in a good spot right now, and it's really getting down to the wire where it's like
and
we
yeah,
should
they
probably
look bad.
jettison Carson Wentz. But I would still say the Texans, and you want to know, and I'll say the Texans for one reason,
You're saying the Texans are in a worse position than
or in a worse position. Yes.
okay, yeah, go ahead.
And there's one reason why, and that is Bill O'Brien.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
is a
Because you know what? All things being equal, the Eagles are in a really bad spot. The Eagles don't look great. Carson Wentz looks like he's ready to just go home. But
They won a Super Bowl.
they won a Super Bowl, and at least we know their coach isn't gonna like just randomly trade the best player on the team for like a bag of footballs.
Yeah, because DeAndre Hopkins looks really washed in Arizona, doesn't he?
yeah,
Yeah,
it's terrible,
right.
just awful, just terrible.
Gotta
My
get rid
God.
of that guy.
How's David
I-
Johnson doing?
He scored a touchdown in the first game, and that's I think the last we've heard. of him.
So it's like that's the problem, right? Especially after what Bill O'Brien did, it's sort of this case where it's like if I'm a
And
Texans
Jadeveon
fan,
Clowney is a real slouch too. Should get rid of him.
you know, exactly. If I'm a Texans fan, can I say with any confidence that he's not going to trade Clowney for like a new clipboard or something? Like there's
See,
Deshaun
think
Watson buttered his sandwich the wrong way the other day. Let's
yeah.
I think he coaches from a college mindset where he's like, I can just get rid of these guys and I'll get a new camp of recruits coming in next
Well,
year. It
that's
doesn't
not
work like
how
that.
it works in the
I know.
NFL.
But that's the thing is I have to do more research on and ask some Texans fans like the whole saga of how the hell did Bill O'Brien get the keys to your franchise? Because
Oh,
it is
no, it's exactly what happened. Okay, so Joe Paterno got fired for being a piece of shit.
I can't hear you. What are you saying? I'm dead.
Who ever heard of raping a man? But no. So Joe Paterno got fired for being a piece of shit and was replaced. And Bill O'Brien came in, and a lot of people praised Bill O'Brien for how he kind of handled that situation, with players who were given options to leave, and he sort of took over the reins of a team that was somewhat depleted and very kind of demoralized. And I'm not getting into the morality of all this because if you want to ask my honest opinion about it, I said that the Penn State football team should have been shut down permanently, and I still believe that. But if you're just going to take that aside and just look at the football, Bill O'Brien came in, and a lot of people were like really impressed with how he handled that situation as the Penn State coach.
But how the hell does that get you a GM and head coaching job?
Okay. I'll tell you exactly how. Do you remember the saga of Brock Osweiler?
I do.
Okay, so Brock Osweiler. Okay, so Peyton Manning's last
$100
season.
million man.
Yeah, so Peyton Manning's last season with the Denver Broncos, he was being held together with chicken parmesan, and he had to sit out for a good stretch of the season. Brock Osweiler comes in as the backup and actually plays pretty well. Yeah. And then they go back to Peyton near the end of the season, and Peyton goes on, they win the Super Bowl. But those games where Brock Osweiler was starting for the Broncos, his stock went up. And as Zach alluded to, the Texans saw this and gave him a $100 million contract. And then he proceeded to suck balls, but they still had to pay this damn guy.
Yeah.
So, but
At least it helped them draft Deshaun Watson.
it did. But the reason I'm talking about Brock Osweiler is that the Texans, between Brock Osweiler and Bill O'Brien, seem to have a pattern where whoever is calling the shots, and it's got to be at an ownership level. Who owns them? Bill McNeil or something. I don't know.
McNair's his last name. I
Yeah.
can't think of his first name.
McNair.
Bob McNair.
Bob McNair. Okay.
Yeah.
So Bob McNair is clearly a guy who, overpays on very little, right? Brock Osweiler had a few good games. Give him $100 million. Bill O'Brien, by all accounts, was a good college coach for Penn State, for a few years. Give that man the GM and coaching positions. I honestly think that between those two, you can start developing a pattern where, Bob McNair is just this guy who, sees something shiny and he's like, nope, that's what I'm going with. I'm going all in.
Just it's now Bob McNair's family because he died 2 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Not
fuck
early.
him, then. I guess you can't blame him anymore. Huh?
The owner is listed as his wife, Janice.
So maybe it's just a
And
family
Neil
thing.
Rhodes
Maybe it's a
too.
culture thing. But I don't know. There's something with that team where they see a little bit of success out of someone, and they are just ready to go all in for very little justification.
No, I think honestly, I really truly believe the thing that is keeping Bill O'Brien in a job is J.J. Watt and Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, but based off what he's done, are we convinced that he won't trade either of them for?
But
I don't know.
They've won back-to-back division
That's
titles.
higher.
They've won back-to-back division titles.
Yeah, but the division's dog shit.
But Mike, we need them to play in the Saturday game every year.
That's
so,
true. They do need to win that division every year, so we can have them play
Hey, man.
the Saturday afternoon game.
Those are banners that they get to put a little banner up when they do that. So
And the other thing that we forget, yes, the Penn State stuff's in there. He does also have the he is the longest surviving Bill Belichick coaching tree hire.
Yeah, but those guys never pan out. Look at Patricia.
Right,
I
but
just
he's doing okay.
I want to one more thing before we go, guys. I got to show this because Mike sent it to us yesterday. I think this is hilarious. You'll note who the Cardinals were playing yesterday.
yes,
Football team.
Football team.
Yes.
Oh God.
I just that's my favorite sub.
Hey, remember when this whole thing was, and we can close on this if you want, when the whole thing with the name change started, and I said, it wouldn't surprise me if they just didn't have a name, and that way the fans that were still passionate about it could still call the team the Redskins. And then I saw Dan Snyder the other day said, this might be permanent. Just Washington football team from here on in.
I'm telling you, Washington FT. Let's do it.
Yeah, I'm
We'll see.
down.
No,
I'm down.
We had the discussion last week, but I'm in on it. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Football team.
I still don't think that they're going to let him. The NFL is eventually going to force.
If it was his choice to make, it would just say Washington football team, because that way they could still be quote unquote the Redskins without being the Redskins, basically. So you'd have the fans, and you get a bunch of bootleg merchandise that still had all the stuff on it, but the NFL would be clean and the team would be clean of it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas they changed the name to the Guardians or the Red Wolves or the Red Tails or whatever. You can't have that secondary market for Redskins stuff, which they could right now.
Yeah, the merch is what they want. The money is what's going to give them a brand. You won't make any money if you just have, especially if you have some soccer bullshit.
But by the same token, though, you got to think about it. If that shit starts flying off the shelves like crazy, because
But the question is, how long is that sustainable, though? That's the question.
Yeah, that's the question. If they were okay, let's say they go 12-4 this year, their playoff team.
They're not going 12-4.
But if they do, then it becomes sustainable. I think. Yeah. Otherwise.
But the thing that I put forward last week, Greg, was how much of this is. Okay, you see the team rebrand to Washington football team, and they say we're going to do this for a year or two while we figure out a new name. I can definitely see the appeal of someone going this Washington football team thing's only going to be a 1 to 2 year thing. I'm going to get some merch now, so it's this quirky, interesting thing in 10 years after they've been the Red Wolves for a while or something. I think that is a lot of it is sort of this sort of hipstery, novelty appreciation of it. And it's once everyone has the Washington football team merch that they want, and the team is going 5-11 every year, is that going to be exciting? Like,
I would just counter with this. What if they say a year or two? What if they decide like okay, in a year or two, or maybe even 3, people get used to things, and then they go and they do market research, quote unquote market research. They go, well, they want to keep it the Washington football team, and there you go. I'm just saying anything's possible with this douchebag, so who knows? But I wouldn't rule out them just staying that way because he's just an obstinate fuck, and that's the way it's going to be. So who knows?
I think the larger thing with Washington is that it depends on how they do. It depends on how they do on the field, and it depends on how they do in this investigation they're supposedly.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Quote unquote investigation. This is probably the most intimately tied a team's branding has been with their record for a 1 season like gap. I mean, like, I don't think I'd have to look and get feedback if there was ever a team where it's like, if you guys don't win in these uniforms or this whatever, it's gone. Like,
interestingly enough, so one of the ideas that people have put forward for the name of the Washington football team is Red Tails, in honor of the Tuskegee Airmen. And Air Force today just unveiled Tuskegee Airmen Red Tails inspired uniforms. I thought that was interesting.
Oops.
Take it. Can't do it now.
Anyway,
before we go, the Raiders are playing their first game and
what are they calling it? The Death Star?
It's either a Death Star or a giant Roomba, whatever you want to call it.
I like the Roomba myself, but that's just me.
It does have a very cool thing on the, what would that be? The eastern end zone. It's a big glass thing that looks across the freeway to the strip. It's a great view. And they have the Al Davis flame on that end of the stadium. I wasn't aware that it's not actually a flame. It's a digital flame.
Really?
It's like a flame-like sculpture covered in LED screens.
Okay.
So they just kind of have
That's
like a flame.
so lame.
They have like a flame bit animation going.
You know what, Raiders? The goddamn Seattle Dragons of the XFL had enough dignity to light an actual flame.
That's right.
The Cauldron of Destiny or whatever that shit.
Right.
Here. I'll pull it up here so we can take a quick look at the flame.
I was thinking about the Vegas team today because I was listening to a different podcast where they were talking about the Vegas Golden Knights and how they've kind of indoctrinated themselves to there it is. How the Golden Knights have kind of indoctrinated themselves and ingrained themselves in the community and the fans and all that right out of the gate. Part of it has to do with them being good. Part of it has to do with like they played like 2 weeks after that Vegas shooting, and they have all these things going for them. The Raider, like this game, when I'm watching it, I honestly think it's being played in a void because the Raiders they've left Oakland. They have this brand new stadium, but they have no fans to play for in it. So it's like, I almost think this is the worst thing that could have happened to them moving is that but they have nobody to play in front of for most of the year.
This is the worst thing that could have happened to a lot of things for a lot of different reasons, man.
Well, right, but like, but specifically on the idea of like you're a new team in town trying to get more fans. If those people can't actually go to your games, if I was living in Vegas and I was like, oh, ready to be a Raider fan, but then I never got to actually see them.
Well, you remember we talked about what the Golden Knights doing so well. We're like, we got to see what the Raiders' effect's going to be with this. So with this. And no one being allowed to go, it may help the Golden Knights in a weird way. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out.
The NFL team, second fiddle to a hockey team in the desert.
I never thought I'd see it, but you never know. All right, fellas, you ready to wrap it up?
Yeah, I got nothing else.
Indeed.
All righty, then. We will do this all again next week, live and in person and living color and all the other stuff.
Not in person. 6 feet away. Over.
Yeah. I forgot about that. Yeah, 6. I think we've got that covered by a mile or two.
Just a bit.
So follow us on Twitter at Basically Sports. Subscribe via Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spreaker, Spotify, where we got no money, but we're there anyway. YouTube and all the other places fine podcasting is sold. We will see you next time.
Spotify can send us money if they want.
Oh, you can send money, sure. I don't know where they're going to. We'll have to figure that out, where they would actually send it to. But yeah, we can do that too.
Is 61.
We only accept anonymous bags of cash delivered to a P.O. box in Spokane, Washington.
And again,
right.
the actual money, we launder it. You have to send us pizza rolls, and then we return the pizza rolls.
Yeah.
Launder the money, right? Yeah, there you go. All right, folks. We'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in.
So long.
Later.
Later.